Morning, guys. Me and Bear are out on the riverbank this morning. Got out really early and doing a little coffee and tea and stuff. I'm actually doing hot chocolate. He's doing is it coffee? Coffee, of course, coffee and oatmeal. I'm not ready to eat yet, and so we're just coming out and gonna spend a little time on the bank. Wanted to bring you along and share some time with you. And what we were just talking about was homemade MREs and c-rations and stuff like that. Now what we were talking about, the canned corned beef, that's what the meat is, and all of the old c-rations and stuff. And you young people don't know what c-rations are, but we grew up with them. They were surplus, and it was what the military issued before MREs. So you had little metal cans. Some of them had, now wait a minute. What was the one that had the key on it?
The P-38?
No, the one that actually had the, you puckered it up like Spam used to come in tins like that.
Everything came that way.
Yeah, but
you're talking about in the MRE?
In the c-rat, yeah.
Yeah, they would put crackers in them with the crank.
That was at
lids.
Crackers.
And you would have, you'd have a stack of crackers, and you would have a little tin of coffee, and you would have your sugars and salts and stuff like that all stacked in this little can about that tall, with this little windy key that you popped off the bottom. And
went around and tore it, yeah.
Yeah. And we're old enough to remember that Spam and what the knockoff brand Treat. They had that little tab that pulled off.
Yeah, I remember that when you got Spam or whatever, and you had to sit there and unwind it, and corned beef came that way.
Canned ham.
The big one.
The big canned ham that's about the size of a good sized softball.
Yeah.
It's still got the key.
Yeah. Well, we used to heat that up. We take a coffee can that we had a bail on it for a bush pot, and we'd sit the whole ham can in there still sealed up and bring it to a boil, and you let it boil no more than like 10 or 15 minutes or that sucker was going to pop.
That was never pleasant.
No, no. I can clearly remember at a hunting camp, and we had done that and set it on a fire and got it hot, and a rather loud disagreement had popped up over Alabama and Auburn, and they forgot about the can.
War Eagle?
Yeah, War Eagle, baby. And so they had forgot about the can, and suddenly the can blew up, and the coffee can full of boiling water slung everywhere. Of course, then they were mad about you made me bust my can type deal. But as long as you opened it up after like 8 or 10 minutes, it didn't have time to make steam, but it'd be hot meat. But we had cheese, we had crackers, and they wanted to heat the meat up. It was a cold day. And the idea was we'd cut the can open, and then you'd take a knife and gibble it up right quick, and you'd spear and pull out warm meat to eat with the crackers and cheese because it was a cold day. Of course, they had thermoses of coffee with them.
Let's give them a little bit of backstory about how this conversation even ever came about.
Sure.
All right, we're in the woods, as you can see, and it is 6:30 a.m. local time, and we were talking about food, transportable food, and Blackie has got some MRE components, but MREs can be beastly hard to find, because you do have the knockoffs that are available online, but the true military surplus, they're hard to find, and most times you're going to pay an arm and a leg for them. But if you'll go back and think just a moment, the components of an old C-ration are sitting on your grocer's shelf right now. And for what it would cost you to buy a $20 bag of MREs or MRE, a meal, you could probably make 2 or 3 C-rat boxes. That's how the conversation got started.
Well, let's look at what we had in c-rations. You had canned peaches, Today you got the little plastic cups that go in the lunch box. Same thing.
And almost the same size.
Same size, same thing. It just is now in a plastic instead of that. You could have any vegetable you want to put in there, basically, because they got corn, carrots, peas, I think even lima beans in those little bitty containers as well. So that'd be something that you could carry along. Canned meat, you still got the cans of corned beef hash and that type deal, as well as Spam. You know, you still get cans of Spam. So you got a meat, you got that. Now, I don't think they have it anymore, but we had Castleberry cans that were the size of Vienna sausage cans that were spaghetti and ravioli and Brunswick stew.
Yeah, you can still get them, but I think they're slightly larger than the little Vienna cans. But, you know, I was in the grocery store yesterday and saw all this stuff there.
Well, I mean, when you dehydrated meals absolutely are lighter, no question. They come in retort pouches, so they don't weigh nothing. But you've got to produce the water, and then you've got to boil the water, and you got to cook it. Which, well, it's not just adding boiling water. Well, you got to cook the water. So now, for me to heat up this component, I've got to carry water for water purification of some kind, a boiling apparatus of some kind, or I could just carry the can of whatever and eat it straight out of the can. I think the weight savings is about the same to just take it and pull it straight out of the can. And so for a true grab and go, having it in just canned food is something that is cooked and you can just eat it cold would be an advantage unless it's a cold day. You know, down here in our south it's so hot, you don't want a hot meal on a hot day anyway. So, you know, God knows how many cans of tomato soup I've ate cold before. So, because it's too hot to eat, so I just eat the soup.
Or you could pull the trick, well, you'd have to heat up the water to put the can in it and warm it up in the can.
You know, and I know down here you get in the fields. And people used to get up at 4:30 in the morning, because it, like we did this morning, by 5:30 you got enough light you can see to walk around, and by 5:45 you're in the field or whatever, and that's when you picked your peas, your butter beans, and all that stuff. Because by 10 o'clock it was so hot in the field you couldn't stand to be out there in all that white sand and everything else.
Nothing's changed.
Not a thing's changed, you know. And because the family would get up and they'd go to work then, working on the farm or whatever, and then about 11 o'clock when they came out of the field, you'd get something to eat, and then you would take a rest break until 1:30 or 2, and then you go back out and work from like 2 to 5. Well, let's look at that a minute. 5 a.m. until 11, you just worked 6 hours before lunch. Then you took an hour and a half siesta. Then you come back out and you work from 2 to 5 or 2 to 6, so you had 3 or 4 more hours. So you're working a 9 or 10 hour day.
Or if you had a particularly hard-headed uncle,
yeah,
you would go, but he wouldn't come out till after the heat of the day and after he had watched his soap opera.
Yeah.
And bless his heart and rest his soul. But we would go back out 3:30, 4 o'clock-ish after the heat of the day, and it would be dark before we'd come in. And dark down here is 9:30.
9 o'clock at night.
9:30, depending upon what exact month of the summer we're talking about.
Well, you could still see, usually you could still see till about 8:30 pretty well, unless you was in the deep woods. And then you had to go put up the equipment. That's when you went and refueled, put the water in, fixed up the chemical for tomorrow, whatever. So you didn't get done till probably 10 o'clock. And then you had to be back up at 4 a.m. So people didn't stay up a lot back in the days.
Woke up with the chickens and went to bed with the chickens.
Yeah. And he still did a full day's work in there too. But back to, so the MRE type deal about carrying your own foods for something to carry and eat in the field. Now I like dehydrated food to a point.
Yeah,
It's
good.
It's just a little too expensive most times. And I've been really impressed with the big change of MREs over the years, because the ones we had in the 80s were just a little bit better than c-rations.
Well, they were the next generation.
Yeah. But remember the old 5 fingers of death? It was the 5 hot dogs.
Yeah.
5 hot dogs in a retort pouch. And I think it was Armour hot dogs. Oh boy, them things get a little shelf life on them, and they were just, oh, no.
Well, also, we are in, Blackie and I are into budget woodscraft. We don't want to spend an arm and a leg if we can avoid it. Now sometimes there's this outstandingly wonderful piece of gear that you can't live without, and you're going to fork out for it. But if you're like us, we live on a budget. And it is, in my point of view, and I'm sure his, it's more cost effective to just go and get you little components here and there at the store and put them together in your own kit.
Well, looking at going, you go during the week, probably most people once or twice a week, you're going to run through the burger line. All right, that's when you pick up your packets of mayonnaise, mustard, ketchup, sugar, salt and pepper pre-made up. All right, I can repackage that into my own MRE with just a Ziploc bag. Okay? Because you see what, this is where I've filtered stuff out of MREs and, you know, hot chocolate. I just put them in Ziploc bags. Same idea. Now you can also get crackers, certain things. You get salads and stuff now when you come and pick them up, and they got a couple packages of crackers.
Or dressing.
Or dressing and stuff like that you can carry along. And if you organize that and, you know, instant coffee, instant this or that, you can make up your own care packages and everything else.
This is a godsend. This is an individual serving of coffee. Okay? And if y'all paid attention, I think this is my 3rd cup since we started. Usually I'm used to drinking out of a cup like this, but I'm stuck with this one this morning.
But yeah, I mean, that's when they got around to doing that, because we always had the powdered coffee. And
the instant.
The instant. And then that's a lot better tasting coffee. So they were able to do that with it. I mean, little innovations.
And we're not trying to duplicate a C-rat. We're trying to make a modern interpretation of, to carry to the field. If you know you're going to be out all day, you don't want to come in, just put your components together, drop them in your trusty Blackbird haversack.
Yeah.
And take off.
Well, I mean, you got Spam today in single servings.
And the short can.
And a little short can, true, both of those.
They've got the vacuum sealed pouches too. And then you got the big can.
And then of course you've got, they now have the, it's in a little bowl, and it's beef stew, it's whatever, which is basically MRE component, you know, but it's meant to microwave it, but it's fully cooked. That means I could technically eat it cold, and I could also take it and just drop it in boiling water and heat it up and running with a canteen cup, standing up in boiling water. Give it about 10 minutes, it'll be hot if I want hot chow. I've done that several times at work because there was lasagna, there's spaghetti, there's all kinds of those available. And everybody says, well, that's for a microwave. If it's a microwave, 9 times out of 10, it's already fully cooked. Microwaves heat things up well. They don't cook well. And we remember when microwave ovens came out, so to speak, in the average
And
house.
we're like this
Oh my
wide,
God. Big as a TV and that thick, you know, and you'd hit the button and all the lights would dim in the house and it'd come on like, you know. My grandmother refused to eat any food that was made in one. She'd seen that movie in the 50s and knew it was radioactive, so why would you eat radioactive food?
You remember how they came up with those, don't you?
No.
Back during World War II, the British were developing radar right at the very front end of World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And the technicians that were working on the radars would take their lunch boxes and set them up in front of the dish where they just happened to be working.
Mm-hmm.
And when they would come back to lunch, their stuff in their cans and their boxes would be hot.
Yeah.
And they finally figured out that it was the waves coming out of the radar unit that was heating up the food.
There you go. Yeah.
And that's where the microwave got invented.
In the 1980s, I worked for a company that made military and weather radars. And my job was to go assemble the radar at that time. And I found out from one of the senior engineers out there this little trick. They'd take and they had one of them big 10-foot across dish military types sitting out there. And the company was on the edge of town, and so the dish is facing the woods. There's nobody down there. I saw him do this one time, and after that I got to doing it. He went to the store for lunch and he got a whole chicken. And he put the chicken into a big old plastic bag that we had. It was big old heavy plastic. He poured an entire bottle of Italian dressing over the top of it and some other seasonings, tied it on the end of a pole and held it in front of that thing about 90 seconds and cooked that whole chicken. Where the magnetron that's in a modern microwave oven is about like 2 inches and 1.5 inches round, the magnetron, that thing was the size of a 5-gallon bucket, so yeah, it'd cook it. Everybody had to wear gold chains around their neck because if you accidentally got in front of that beam, they'd dance on you. That's the only way you knew you was being irradiated. But, so stuff that's rated for microwave ovens and doesn't require refrigeration is shelf stable, can be used as an MRE. That means you can immersion heat it, which means you can either take it in the whole package and slide it into a component that you can have hot water in or bring up to boiling water in and therefore indirectly heat it, something like that. You can also just transfer the contents, if it's too bulky, into a freezer bag, quart freezer bag, put that into the water and heat it up, or just eat it cold because it's probably already cooked. And I learned to eat cold stuff.
Where have I seen a guy heat up food in a Ziploc bag?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
Where have I seen that?
I did that because I was showing you how to keep a pot clean. So I just filled up a pot and put it in there and boiled it, and I pull it out and the water's still good. I make tea or coffee out of the water and eat out of the bag.
If you missed the video, go to the playlist, it'll be down there.
Yeah, we got that video in here somewhere. Show how to keep the pot clean. In fact, I'll put a link somewhere up in here, okay? But yeah, I mean.
But anyway.
What we need when we go to the field, because we grew up when in the classic, it's still used today. I mean, you went hunting or whatever, you're gonna have a pack of crackers, Vienna sausage, maybe a small can of, small cans of beanie weenies, or pinto beans, not pinto beans.
Baked beans.
Baked beans. We'd carry those. There's all kinds of stuff on the grocery shelf. You just go around and you look for size and comparison and then make up your own sets to carry.
And if a pack of crackers and a can of Vienna sausage makes you happy, go for it.
Go for it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Many times when we would go on these events, hikes or campouts or whatever, it was sort of a little one-upsmanship who could come up with a better lunch or whatever. And I've seen, oh my God, old Davy Hobbs that time that everybody was, out squirrel hunting, about 5 of us. And most people brought out Vienna sausage and crackers. and David had to bring out these sardines and hot spicy chili oil with oh, what was that? Hot spicy cheese on crackers to go with it. His breath would peel the bark off the tree. But, you know, everybody else sitting there except for me liked hot stuff. So they're sitting there smelling all this hot stuff, and they hated him because of that. So everybody kept coming up with something a little bit better. I remember when I found the dehydrated ice cream sandwich that they got.
The space ice cream.
Space ice cream. It's
Yeah.
just, they just take a regular ice cream sandwich and put it in some sort of ice and suck all the moisture out of it. And it's like putting a piece of styrofoam in your mouth, but if you just hold on to it a minute, it'll re-soften up and it's got the taste, you know.
If not the texture.
If not the texture. You just gotta let it soften back up in your mouth. But, oh, taking that, everybody's sitting there, we've been eating nothing beanie weenies and whatever for 2 or 3 days doing this thing, and I pull out a dessert. They hated my guts. Or a Ranger cookie, where you take package of sugar like goes into coffee and package of creamer like goes into coffee, and you carefully open up the creamer package, which was paper over foil, poured the sugar into it, took a little stick and stirred it up so it was good mixed, rolled the top over, pinched it between 2 sticks and held it in the fire till all the paper burned off of it. And after it cooled off, you would open it up and it would be a quarter-size little sugar cookie called Ranger cookies. Oh, they hated my guts when I figured out how to do that one, because I had cookies and they didn't have cookies. But anyway, guys, just wanted to bring you along on this little trip this morning. We're up and looking around doing some stuff and just thought I'd share with you. So thank you, Bear. Go ahead. Got something to say?
Yeah, one more thing.
Sure.
Experiment. Do your own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Just because we say do this or do that, check yourself. Do your own thing. Find your own, what you like, and put it together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't go on just what we say, but do what you like. Do what's comfortable for you, and it'll work out better in the end.
I remember when a member of our group, it was winter, so it was cold, and what he did was had a seal meal bags, old vacuum sealers, and he had took leftover Kentucky Fried Chicken legs.
That works.
And put like 6 of them, you know, interlocked them so they fit in there, and made a brick about like that of chicken legs, and he just vacuum sealed it. Well, the high that day was 42, so he just stuck them in the haversack, and we had been walking around for like 2 hours or 3 hours, and we stopped eating. He pulls out chicken. So
that probably endeared him to everybody.
Oh yeah. So, you know, just get out and experiment, guys, and see what works for you. But you can make up your own sets, your own meals and stuff like that. Don't think you got to do just pre-package. Don't be afraid, but always, like I've said, always try it out at home. If you want to try this new recipe out, try it out at home. It sucks to be out here in the middle of nowhere, and what you brought to eat, you can't eat.
And pack out your garbage.
Pack out your garbage. Don't leave nothing. All right, guys. We're going to say goodbye right here. Thank you for watching. Do me a favor, if you enjoyed this, please hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Thank you, Bear, for coming out this morning. Until next time, guys, I'm Blackie, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.
Cool.